A local government expert, and Ntiyiso, consulting group chief advisor, Miyelani Holeni, joins us now for a discussion. Miyelani, good to have you with us. Welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning, and thank you for having us.
Miyelani, firstly, we listen to these latest developments, but there are so many of these cases, and the cost of which runs into billions of rands that are lost through corruption, fruitless and wasteful expenditure in our municipalities over many years. But if we look at our municipalities, the one thing, is that it would be quite one thing if we had just one or a few non-functioning municipalities. However, in the South African situation, most of our municipalities seem to be dysfunctional or malfunctioning municipalities. Let's talk about that, and why is this the case?
So I think, given the fact that we've had 25 years of municipalities in the format that we have them, we must also revisit the local government white paper which enacted municipalities. And that local government white paper of 1998 presumed or postulated that municipalities will be able to generate their own revenue, they would be able to attract investors, they would be able to equitably deliver services as well as deploy resources across the board. But some of the assumptions that were made have not, unfortunately, come true. So we're finding a local government or municipalities that are under strain, and we can accept that not all municipalities are equal in terms of resourcing, and resourcing from a skills point of view, from a funding point of view, as well as from an operating model point of view. But to talk about the operating model of municipalities, they were meant to be a business in the local government space or in the public sector space, but they have not been able to achieve the objectives of what a municipality should be. So the issue that we are seeing is that the chronic lack of skills and the fact that municipalities are starved of funding from the fiscus, which is only 10% of the entire fiscus, and they have to raise about 90%. But then again comes in the skilled people to be able to run the local government space.
So if there is a problem with the funding model, Miyelani, why haven't we addressed it? Because in the end, it is ordinary South Africans who suffer when they cannot have services delivered to them.
Absolutely. So I think for the proposals that we are making, for instance, is that we have three spheres of government, and all of them almost are keeping oversight at municipalities. If you look at the national, they will draft the policies, drive the legislation, it's handed over to provinces, they will then keep the oversight. And when you get to municipalities, that is in fact the most important leg of government, because that's where services reach the people. So we're advocating the fact that about 45% of the fiscus goes to the national departments, 43% to the provincial, and about 10 or under 10. So we need to change that model in this way, because we sit in provincial departments highly skilled individuals, and we need to also look wider, because we must look at how that funding would be flowing from the provinces into the municipalities, but not only the funding, but it should be accompanied by the skills. So the question we're asking now is, how is the three spheres of government helping us to be able to deliver services? The answer is not really. So let's look at how provinces can be part and parcel of how municipalities deliver services, not just from an oversight point of view, but all of that funding, the highly skilled people that are sitting within the provinces. We have the Cogta departments, the treasury departments, and all the other departments that are sitting there with highly skilled engineers and financial managers coming in and working with municipalities. So in essence, we should be having two spheres of government to alleviate this whole funding issue of starving municipalities of the current situation of lack of funds.
Just to check if I heard you correctly, did you say through two spheres of government or through these spheres of government?
Two spheres of government. You heard me correctly. So basically what we're saying, Sakina, is that we have the likes of state-owned enterprises, we have the likes of Eskom, and I'll give an example with Eskom, for instance. Eskom sits with a distribution business, which is the one that does the last mile of electricity to the household. excellent engineers. If you go to a municipality which has to supply electricity or has to be responsible for supplying electrical services, you may find that the technical department is not well skilled or well resourced to be able to drive some of those. If you go to the provinces, you'll find, for instance, that there are highly skilled individuals that would benefit the local government space by actually applying the skills that they have, as opposed to keeping oversight and support and all of the various things that are being advocated. So I think we're seeing a model that 25 years on, we've used data points that obviously were collected before the democracy. We have new data points that are telling us that no matter what we've done, we've had a number of turnaround strategies within local government, and with each and every government or minister or whichever the case may be, or the crisis that we have in Mafube, we are likely to have a turnaround strategy. So it's not time for turnaround strategy, but it's time to look back into the statutes of what formed local government and how that can be changed within the broader ecosystem of government, so that we can be able to change the current course that we are facing of municipalities not achieving. Otherwise, we're going to have another 25 years of more problems if we don't look into how we start adjusting the legislation and changing the assumptions that municipalities were based upon.
So hopefully we'll come back to that point later on in the interview about the 2 spheres rather than 3 spheres of government. But when you talk about the skills or shortage of skills at municipal level, is that by design or by default, Miyelani? Is this not a crisis that is, deliberately created? Because if a municipality has a budget, if they are able to bring in engineers, for example, and pay them out of a budget somewhere, why then don't they have those skill sets in-house?
So the municipalities are graded according to the grading that looks at what size of revenue it is, how many people are its services there. So that would also determine the type of salary scales that would be applied for the skills that would be employed within the municipality. If you look at the metropolitan municipalities, those are the cream de la creme of the municipalities. Their scales are much higher. If you look at what a city manager is paid, or an executive director is paid, or a divisional head or group head, and you juxtapose it with the smallest of municipalities, which does not have a revenue base as strong as some of these metros, you will find discrepancies. So a municipal manager or a city manager in local government, they are all different because of the scales, because of the size of the municipality. So if people are looking for greater opportunities and they want to progress, the normal route or the logical route is to look for bigger and bigger municipalities. And what happens is that there's a drain from those small municipalities where they have to do with people who are acting, people who are not fully qualified, or people who are not ready to take on those different positions. So you're now sitting with a budget of within the municipality that's going to gravitate towards salaries as opposed to going to fulfill the service delivery imperatives. Then you have a conundrum of how do you attract skills or some of the highly skilled people. If you think of some of the top city managers or municipal managers, would they rather go and work somewhere in the corner of South Africa, or would they rather be somewhere in a bigger municipality? So there is a default issue that has taken place from the design and some of those assumptions that were put forward. Because if a municipality was going to be geared up properly and having the right kind of funding, it would be able to overcome some of the skills issues. Hence, we're talking about them being starved of funding, and them being at least the funding be unlocked and getting highly skilled people that would be able to come in because of better funding and taking away the issue of gradings within the municipality, at least to pay the core people who are part of the scarce skills pool.
All sounds rather problematic and goes back to the funding model, I would assume, because if you look at the points you make about the actual skills that are needed within any given municipality, funding should not be an issue for those, because after all, this is a developmental state and every municipality would need certain skills regardless of where they're situated, whether it's a metro or some far-flung little dorpie in the middle of nowhere. nowhere, they should all have the same skills that are necessary, because there are people who live there. South Africa has a huge number of people, incidentally, living in underdeveloped areas. They are in the rural areas, they are in townships, they are in squatter camps. And if government lived up to its claims that it is actually pursuing development as a developmental state, what should they be doing right now to correct all of this?
So I think for us is we see a model that starts with a shared services type of arrangement. Typically, there's about 44 districts in the country, and each district may have a number of municipalities starting from 4, and some have higher numbers to that. So we need to start with creating a shared services model that looks at how the skills are shared between all of the municipalities. 1, financial skills; 2, systems that are deployed within the municipality; the technical aspects of the municipality. So if you're having a district which has its own structures, it has its own municipal manager, it has its own council, it has its own mayor and speaker and all of those things, and still has to have officers that are running there. And you're finding that there are local municipalities. So we are replicating all of these structures across all of the municipalities. Perhaps we need to look at, what the district development model is bringing forward, and perhaps be able to say then districts become what now is called, maybe call it counties. Let's get everyone who are the skilled people that are within there. We are going to have one structure of council. We are going to have one structure of officers that are going to be working across all of those different municipalities, and let's pool all the skills together so that it doesn't have to be a situation where one municipality within the district does not have the resources, and it becomes a pity for everyone else, and it makes all the mistakes, and it drags down the communities. It doesn't deliver services. Maybe it's time to look at how we also consolidate some of these municipalities so that they become even stronger, because some of the smaller municipalities are in the position they are in because they don't have industry, they don't have revenue bases, they don't have the skills. They are not attractive enough from attracting various skills, as well as funding, as well as investment, which is another key issue that we should be talking about, because that is what drives an area. So perhaps we need to look at also the system of local government to then say, let us consolidate to a point where we work with 44 districts becoming the bigger towns, if you want, or the bigger cities that we are sitting with, so that, of course, it will have anomalies in the cities or the most developed areas, because those can be self-sufficient. But what are we solving for? We are solving for municipalities that are not able to carry their load or carry themselves and carry out their mandates because of a lack of resources from skills, technical or financial and otherwise.
So you touched on the district development model, and government has essentially put this forward as a panacea, if you will, for some of the issues that we've been talking about. What's your assessment of it?
So the district development model holds promise. Let's, I think, start there. But how is it going to be realized if you still have multiple spheres of government? And when you get to local government, you still have spheres, if you want, because you still have the districts, you still have the locals, and then you have the cities that are standing on their own. So we are dealing with a number of structures that must be working together. So why not reduce the number of structures and consolidate them so that you avoid having to create, of course, it's cooperative government. Let's cooperate, but the cooperation sometimes within the public sector itself can be difficult and it can be challenging. It can take time to convince each one of the officials. So why not start consolidating, as we're saying, in terms of how the spheres of government are? But within municipalities, specifically talking about the district development model, it's supposed to be driven by districts. And some of those districts must be also be capacitated to be able to deal with the locals. Are they capacitated? We don't know. Are they able to handle big budgets? Do they have the right skills or the technical planning skills and strategic skills that are going to drive the development and of the municipalities? Do they have the right economic development tools, as well as the capacity to be able to bring investors into the area? So the district development model has promised, because it's talking about consolidation and pooling of budget and alignment. And if you were having to align 10 different things versus having to align 3 different things, you would agree with me that aligning 3 different things it could be easier as opposed to having to align 10 different things within there. So that is some of the challenges that the district development model is going to face to be able to permeate and start working and taking away the difficulties that we see within local government and in government in general, because the failure of local government should never be viewed in isolation as if it's just municipalities there, but it's a government, a part of government. So it's the failure of the total government as opposed to just the failure of a municipality somewhere in the corner of South Africa.
So, Miyelani, even if you fix all of these structural issues within municipalities, as someone who has worked in an advisory capacity to some of these municipalities, someone who's well versed in issues of municipal finance, when you have an electorate that does not work, jobs are scarce, people are actually indigent to a great extent, and they simply are not able to afford services. What happens then? Because yesterday we spoke to the Amatole District Municipality, their Chief Financial Officer, who was explaining to us the rationale behind writing off 1.2 billion rand worth of debt. So even if you fix everything else and people are not paying for services, where does that take us?
So I think the issue of why people are not able to pay for services is not just something that springs up, out of nowhere. It springs up from the fact that if a municipality, whether it's within the Amatole district, what is the extent of industry that is there that is able to provide jobs for people? But take it further. What are the instruments from a local economic development point of view, and in fact from a provincial or economic development or national economic development point of view, that are allowing those municipalities to be able to attract industry? One, the fact that municipalities do not have the wherewithal or the tools to be able to come up with tax incentives where they can invite XYZ company from, whether it's from Germany or whether it's from whichever country, to come and set up factories, to come and set up various things and so on, is in itself an obstacle that municipalities are not able to then grow their local economies to the extent that it creates jobs. Because all it is that municipalities or even government, as has been admitted, cannot create jobs on their own. They need to have the enabling environment so that the people that are there within the local space are able to pay for it. But there's also another aspect about paying for services, which is around the mindset and the education, which is a program that we also run from Ntiyiso consulting point of view of how to change mindsets. And we've applied it successfully in different municipalities where people all of a sudden understand that the 1 rand that they put into the municipality, they're actually investing in themselves. And that changes the lot of that municipality when people start agreeing to even be paying, whether they pay infrequently, whether they pay grudgingly, which is to short pay, but generally there's an acceptance when you start at least getting down to the mechanics of how does a municipality get funded, and how does a municipality then build or deliver services to the community. So on that note, people have also come forward. So there are 2 issues there, which is the tools to be able to allow local government or municipalities to give incentives. The other aspect is to be able to work with the communities and be able to drive educational programs, to drive mindset change programs that pushes people to at least see that a municipality is actually their structure. It's not a structure of the president or the minister or whoever, or the MEC or any one of those people that are within there.
We'll have to leave it there for today. Thanks so much for your time. Local government expert at Ntiyiso Consulting Group Chief Advisor on matters plaguing the South African local government sphere, speaking to us there. And that was Miyelani Holeni, the Group Chief Advisor there.